to prepare them to face difficult situation by inculcate awareness. Objective है to explain cause, impact and relief work is being done by गायत्री परिवार in Uttarakhand flood disaster. Cause ये जो डिजास्टर हुआ है उसके पीछे कई कारण हैं। एक कारण तो महत्वपूर्ण कारण है वहाँ का जियोग्राफिकल जो कंडीशंस हैं। आप तो आगे नेक्स्ट वहाँ की जो जियोग्राफिकल कंडीशन है वो आप देखिए, कुमाऊं की और गढ़वाल में भी थोड़ा सा अंतर है। गढ़वाल में आप देखिए छोटे छोटे पत्थर और मिट्टी का ढेर जैसा ये पहाड़ है, तो वहाँ पर इतने हैवी ट्रैफिक और सब चीज़ें जो है उसकी वजह से भी वहाँ के पहाड़ कमज़ोर हैं। लैक ऑफ नॉलेज एंड गाइडेंस ऑफ पिलग्रिमेज, जो भी तीर्थयात्री ऊपर की ओर जा रहे हैं उनके पास कोई गाइडेंस नहीं है, यहाँ तक कि उनको रास्ते का भी कोई जानकारी नहीं है। और यदि कहीं कोई बात होती है तो उनको कहाँ से क्या एड मिलेगी, क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन, कोई जानकारी उसकी उसमें कोई नहीं है। दूसरा, अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड एंड अनट्रेन्ड पिलग्रिम्स। आप देखिए ये तो इस घटना में हम लोगों ने देखा है बाहर के जैसे जापान और अन्य देशों में कि जब कोई घटना घटती तो वहाँ के जो पीपल है, जो आम व्यक्ति है, वो ऑर्गेनाइज हो जाता है और तुरंत उसके लिए रिस्पॉन्स करता है। वहाँ के 5 साल के बच्चे को भी पता है कि यदि अर्थक्वेक आएगा तो वो कहाँ उसको जाना है। तो जितने भी पिलग्रिम्स वहाँ गए तो उन लोगों ने क्या किया, वो ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं हो पाए बल्कि अपनी अपनी जान बचाने के चक्कर में वो लुटते भी रहे वहाँ के कई लोगों के माध्यम से। तो इसकी भी एक कारण था। दूसरा, इग्नोरेंस एंड अवॉइड सेफ्टी रूल्स। कुछ जो एजेंसीज थी उनको गाइड भी किया जाता था, लेकिन वो जनरली एक मानसिकता है कि हमको कुछ नहीं होगा, जो भी होगा हमारे बगल वाले को होगा। तो वो जब उनके ऊपर आया तो वो ज़्यादा इफेक्टेड हुए। दूसरा, हैवी ट्रैफिक। अब शांति कुंज तो हरिद्वार के मेन में ही है और एक तरीके से कहा जाए कि वो क्षेत्र का उनके द्वार पर है, जो हम लोगों की जिम्मेदारी इसके लिए बढ़ भी जाती है। हम लोग रेगुलर देख रहे हैं वहाँ पर जो ट्रैफिक है वो लगातार बढ़ रहा है। इस बार जितना ट्रैफिक था उससे पिछली बार कम था, लेकिन इस बार बढ़ा। तो लगातार ये जो ट्रैफिक बढ़ रहा है और रास्ते की जो स्थिति है उसकी वजह से जो लगातार इसकी आवाज़ हो रही है उसका पहाड़ पर असर पड़ रहा है, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा कारण था। अनकंट्रोल्ड मासेस ऑफ पिलग्रिम्स, स्पेशली ओल्ड एज ऑफ पीपल। ये जो लोग भी इसमें तीर्थयात्री में थे उसमें आप देखें कि ओल्ड एज के लोग की संख्या ज़्यादा होने से वो भी बहुत प्रभावित हुए। दूसरी बात, जो रिस्पॉन्सिबल एजेंसीज है वहाँ, वो कई बार जो है केयरलेस, जो भीड़ बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाती है, अब कोई नहीं सुन रहा है, तो वो भी कहीं ना कहीं उनके अंदर केयरलेसनेस आ जाती है, जिसके कारण भी ये ज़्यादा प्रभावित हुई। दूसरी, टेक्निक्स ऑफ रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन, क्योंकि ये हम लोग का जो विषय है वो कोऑर्डिनेशन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को लेकर के है। कई जगह जो रोड बनते हैं उसके जो जमीन की कटाई होती है वो रोड के ऊपर ही डाले जाते हैं, वो नीचे नहीं डालते हैं। यहाँ पर उत्तराखंड में जितने भी रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहे हैं उसमें जितनी भी मिट्टी निकल रही है उसको जो है वो सीधे जो पास की खाई है, नदी है, उसमें डाल रहे हैं। उसका सबसे बड़ा दुष्परिणाम ये हो रहा है कि लगातार जो ये नदियाँ हैं वो नैरो हो रही हैं और उनकी जो डेप्थ है वो कम हो रही है। पानी ऐसा नहीं पहले भी आता था, अभी भी पानी आया, तो जब डेप्थ कम हो जाएगी और नदियाँ नैरो हो जाएंगी तो जो स्ट्रीम है वो बहुत तेज हो जाएगा। जो ये जमीनें बहुत सारी जो कटी हैं वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा कारण था। और जो कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ डैम जो लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। इसके बाद इसका जो इम्पैक्ट पड़ा वो ये था कि बहुत अधिक मात्रा में हमने जाने हुई हैं और जो उत्तराखंड का जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था उसका एक तरीके से कहें कि बैकबोन भी ब्रेक हुआ है, तो इसमें कोई गलत बात नहीं है। डेवलपमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज ऑफ उत्तराखंड इज अपसेट। तो वहाँ जो विकास की जो डेवलपमेंट की प्रक्रिया चल रही थी, अवसर थे, उसमें बाधा पड़ी है और लगभग सभी रोडें वहाँ पर कोलैप्स हुई हैं। उत्तराखंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एंड रिलीफ सिस्टम उस समय जब ये डिजास्टर की स्थिति तेजी से बढ़ी तो एकदम पैरालाइज जैसी स्थिति उसकी हो गई थी। उत्तराखंड इज गॉन बैक। ये उत्तराखंड का जो डेवलपमेंट से वो कई वर्ष पीछे इसके कारण चला गया है। नेक्स्ट, रिलीफ एफर्ट बाई गायत्री परिवार। उस स्थिति में 17 तारीख को ही 17 को उत्तराखंड गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से, लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से सूचना आई कि इसके लिए करना है। तो पूरा जो हमारा शांति कुंज है, जो ग्लोबल हेडक्वार्टर है गायत्री परिवार का, उसको पूरे के पूरे जो करीब 60 एकड़ में है, वहाँ पर जहाँ 10 से 15 हज़ार लोगों के रहने की व्यवस्था है, उसको पूरा बेस कैंप के रूप में उत्तराखंड रिलीफ वर्क के लिए बदल दिया गया। और फूड पैकेट्स वहाँ से लगातार तुरंत पूरा जो सिस्टम था, जैसे जैसे गवर्नमेंट्स की बात आती थी वैसे उनको, और 18 तारीख से लेकर के 26 तारीख तक प्रतिदिन 10,000 जो है फूड पैकेट्स वहाँ से जलगंज हेलीपैड के माध्यम से भेजा गया। और जब रास्ता खुल गया तो हम लोगों ने अपनी एक योजना बनाई, शांति उन्नयन ऑर्गेनाइज 7 रिस्पॉन्स ग्रुप फॉर उत्तरकाशी, रुद्रप्रयाग, टिहरी, चमोली, पिथौरागढ़, हरिद्वार एंड देहरादून डिस्ट्रिक्ट, एंड मेक ए सेंट्रल टीम टू एग्जीक्यूट टू ऑल नीडफुल एक्टिविटीज ऑफ रिलीफ वर्क। तो उसके लिए हमने 7 जिले के लिए 7 ग्रुप बनाया, और जैसे ही रास्ता खुला वैसे ही मेडिकल टीम और जनरल आइटम, जिसमें होम किट्स भी थे, राशन किट भी थे, ब्लैंकेट्स भी थी, तिरपाल वगैरह थी, वो उन डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स की ओर हमने अपनी टीमों को भेजा। इसको ये चारा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है, और गंगा किनारे लक्सर के आसपास का है। आवाज़ नहीं है इसलिए मैं थोड़ा आपको वैसे एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगा। अब बात है, कोई बात नहीं, चलो नहीं चल रहा है, कोई बात नहीं। ये वहाँ का 50 बेड का हॉस्पिटल है शांतिकुंज के अंदर। ये पूरा का पूरा जो हॉस्पिटल था उसको, और वहाँ पर भोजन के बाद इस तारीख को थोड़ा और काम का बढ़ाया गया, जिसमें लोगों को राशन और सब चीज़ें इसमें जोड़ी गई। उस वक्त करीब 1,500 वॉलंटियर शांतिकुंज में लगे हुए थे, और हर जिले के लिए करीब 50 वॉलंटियर भेजे गए थे। करीब
सबसे पहले सर्वाधिक श्रेष्ठ कार्य शांतिकुंज के द्वारा प्रारंभ किया गया।
हरिद्वार स्थित शांति कुंज के 1,500 कार्यकर्ता और पंडित आचार्य श्री राम शर्मा अस्पताल को पूरी तरह से राहत कार्यों में झोंक दिया गया। शांति कुंज परिवार के सामने सबसे बड़ी चुनौती भोजन पानी की व्यवस्था कराना था। दरअसल उत्तराखंड में तबाही के बाद हजारों लोग जान बचाने के लिए पहाड़ों की तरफ भागे थे, जो वहां भूखे प्यासे तड़प रहे थे। शांति कुंज परिवार को इस बात का अंदाजा था। ऐसे में परिवार के सैकड़ों हाथ भोजन पानी की व्यवस्था करने में जुट गए। इन तस्वीरों को देखकर अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि किस पैमाने पर शांति कुंज के प्रांगण को राहत कार्यों के लिए तब्दील कर दिया गया। फौरन पैकेट बनाने का इंतजाम शुरू हुआ, और देखते ही देखते 1 लाख से ज्यादा पैकेट प्रभावित इलाकों में भेजे गए। इनमें से 40,000 पैकेट तो वायुसेना के हेलीकॉप्टरों के जरिए भेजा गया। उत्तराखंड में आई इस बड़ी विपत्ति का असर पूरे देश पर पड़ा था। जाहिर है देश भर के लोगों की नजर इस पर लगी हुई थी। देश के अलग अलग सूबों के मुख्यमंत्री खुद अपने लोगों को बचाने के लिए हरिद्वार पहुंचे थे। इनमें से न सिर्फ कई राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री शांति कुंज पहुंचे, बल्कि उन्होंने अपना राहत बचाव का केंद्र भी शांति कुंज को बनाया।
मैं डॉक्टर साहब का बहुत आभारी हूँ कि यहाँ सबके लिए दरवाजे खुले हैं, कोई भी आ जाए। और पूरे हिंदुस्तान में अब एक ही एड्रेस है, कहाँ जाना है, डॉक्टर साहब के पास जाना है। सब राज्य सरकारें अपना डेरा टप्पू यहाँ डाल दिया है।
मध्य प्रदेश का राहत शिविर यहाँ था, बाकी राज्य सरकारों ने भी संपर्क किया, और गायत्री परिवार ने परम पूज्य गुरुदेव जी की प्रेरणा से पीड़ित मानवता की जो सेवा की है, उसके उदाहरण मिलने कठिन है।
केदारनाथ समेत चारों धाम और कई छोटे बड़े इलाकों की हालत देखकर शांति कुंज परिवार ने राहत कार्यों का दायरा बढ़ा दिया। अब सिर्फ भोजन पानी ही नहीं, बल्कि कपड़े और बर्तन के भी किट बनाकर प्रभावित इलाकों में भेजे गए। फर्स्ट एड के सामान समेत सैकड़ों कंबल, मोमबत्ती और माचिस के पैकेट भी भेजे गए। हर दिन 3,000 लोगों के लिए मुफ्त में ठहरने के इंतजाम किए गए, जबकि हर दिन 10,000 लोगों को सुबह शाम मुफ्त में खाना खिलाया जाता।
ये जो आपदा है ये राष्ट्रीय आपदा है, बहुत बड़ी आपदा है। इसमें हजारों लोग प्रभावित हुए हैं।
18 जून को एनडीआरएफ के 250 जवान जब राहत कार्यों के लिए राजधानी दिल्ली से चले तो इन जवानों ने रात का वक्त शांति कुंज में ही बिताया।
ADM Rudraprayag Shri Panditji and Brigadier Khanna sir for acknowledging in your speeches the efforts of NGOs. I don't represent my organization, but I represent Spare India, which is an informally formal body of group of NGOs at national level, and would like to share with you that we are trying. See, every time NGOs, GOs, rather today's topic is that there is lack of coordination. So in one word, the purpose of Spare was actually coordination. Okay? And before we actually coordinate with different agencies, first agenda was to whether NGO itself can coordinate among itself or not. So like Spare India is a national coalition of humanitarian agencies, and actually it's a coincidence that today is a World Humanitarian Day, and NGOs are at times known as humanitarian organizations, and we are a group of UN agencies, INGOs, NGOs, some representation from the government as well, and it is our mandate that wherever there is a disaster, so we try to give an alert. We call it URS. URS stands for Unified Response Strategy, whose purpose is basically to respond in a more coordinated manner. See, if we can see coordination, I tried to divide it into two ways. One, coordination among NGOs and international NGOs itself. Second is a major coordination which we are trying to discuss this morning among agencies. Interagency, NGO is one of the agencies, like UN, state government, district, local administration, armed forces, NDMA, MHA, private sector, other stakeholders like what my previous speaker from Haridwar, he mentioned. So coordination among all these stakeholders. I will talk about both the things quickly. How we did after this Uttarakhand. See, first 10 days were really helplessness. Like we were pretty uninformed what is happening in the field. Whatever information we had was from media. So Spare has a IAG which we call Interagency Group, and the subcommittee which coordinates the efforts of all NGOs at a national level. So what are the different steps? The first step is the moment there is a disaster, we call for an immediate meeting of local partners, and we receive information from the field, like NGOs which are present in Rudraprayag, Chamoli, Uttarkashi. Second is stock taking on partners' presence, who is present where. Third step is to see how much resources are available with each NGOs. Actually, recently we tried to find out with the help of a matrix. Like 2 weeks back, we were able to raise up to 60 crores from the NGOs itself. Actually, sorry to say, I was reading the government figure, so it was 1,000 crores. So I was feeling ashamed writing 60 crores actually. But we NGOs feel even proud in raising these funds because sufficient actually for NGOs to respond in such a difficult emergencies. Then we
just keep on the first proverb, very usual, we are well acquainted. What the Czechoslovakian said, misfortunes enter when window is left open to them. So this is what we had actually done. That's why this disaster had struck. It was a disaster, same kind, similar nature, but extent and magnitudes are different. This time in 2013, what had happened in 2012. I can explain the same scenario and same processes. The second, what Chinese said, when heaven sent down the calamities, there is a hope of weathering them. But when man brings them down, upon himself there is no hope of escape. So that's why we were in the trap. Next please. And these are the, just skip this which everyone knows, skip all this. Just a major history of the disaster which Uttarakhand has fought. I verbally recount what had happened in 1893, 1894, in 1970, 1978, 1990, 91, 93, 95, 99 and 2001. lot of casualty every time. We say we are going to learn from this event. But how much we have learned from the past events? Is it the new event that had struck Uttarakhand, or is it a new incident that was not expected? Maybe the timing was little earlier than expected. But then why we failed? All of my previous speakers, they have already pointed out poor coordination, lack of disaster management plan, ill maintenance, ill development, illegal encroachments, and lack of sufficient resources, trained manpower, equipments, etc. The reasons for this. Next please. And I listed few things, not because everything will be very long. So first thing is that for preparedness, for action against disasters, early warning system. We all have been discussing for many years. It has been reported by media also that we were thinking about having a weather radar system, but yet awaited. So how far we continue to keep waiting for such things. Then lack of disaster management plan. Our NDMA, our DMX, everybody suggests to have DMPs at all levels, local levels, block levels, district levels, state levels. But why they are not prepared? Why they are not activated? Why they are not implemented? Why their shortcomings are not identified? Where they are not overridden? So and why these adverse activities which we all identify and know well, that it is deforestation, or it is illegal mining, or it is unscientific road construction, we are not keeping a regulation on that and control on that. And then priorities. We are always luring for money, that what can bring money, but never care what can bring safety. What terms of risk and safety are we earning our income and wealth? Next please. Then there can be various perspectives in which you can discuss coordination and administration issues. I am just highlighting because if you look at from the stakeholder point of view, they will say different issues. Then a person who has a disciplinary issues. I am basically a geologist who have been working on disaster management for more than 2 decades, almost 25 years. And I will have a different issues to discuss about coordination and administration than what a person from administration may speak or a person from community may speak. So we have to identify which are the functional and operational issues which need to be addressed and who will take care of them. Then stakeholder, intra-departmental, some of the speakers have pointed out, there are some coordination issues within the departments themselves also. Then multi-stakeholder, a lot of people, they have to work together at a site. But when it comes to taking the charge or the coordination or lead, everyone wants to be a leader or wants to be the charge or have its own autonomy, doesn't want to communicate. So that's a reason that this is never addressed prior to the disaster. So that they have a habit of working together under one coordination system, which is proposed in our Indian disaster management system as Indian response system. That incident response system, multi-level, at all, every level. It's a grassroots functioning which are the most important. We at NIDM have been conducting many trainings, but most of our training, they get focused mainly on our senior level functionaries. But how far are we able to reach the grassroots functionaries, and how should we reach? What should we do in that direction? If we cannot say no to our responsibilities towards the public man, the common man, by saying that we have been imparted this duty to take care of the senior functionaries or at the larger levels. But we have to devise some mechanism that how our trainings percolate downward to the grassroots levels. Then the disciplinary and interdisciplinary issues. If there is an engineer, he says something else. He says it is more the structural measures, the physical construction measures or other things. If there is a scientist, he says something more theoretical, which may not be more practical. So everywhere there is a confliction, and the two sitting together can devise the better solutions, because if both don't, and then socialist, the community worker, they are also not considered. So we have to consider about social, community, scientific and engineering and technology, and community issues. We all are sitting here together. How many community representatives are here who have to say, yes, we agree with you. Yes, these are the deficiencies we have found. In fact, NIDM has conducted a survey. More than 1,000 people have been interviewed, through which we have actually tried to highlight some of these issues where the community perspective has been taken into consideration. But I would ask that we should have communities representing in such platforms. Next, based on functional parameters, just talk because time is less, talking about only functional issues. One is the data sharing. Everyone who does research says it is my data, I own it, I will not share. I will first publish and then I can share. Why it should be owned by someone, particular individual, when it is done with a public fund? So everyone should have a right. You do whatever you would like to do with that data, but that data should be shared and the common public platform, at least to the government agencies, so that others can also work with their own perspective and for their own end uses. Then how to ensure that information exchange. Now there are three major partners. I tell you, if you consider disaster management. One, the researchers, academic or the field organizations who have the information and the data about the field. Second, the administrators who take information from these people who have those information. And then the third is the public who has to actually act. So these trilateral construction, till it is not complete and well addressed, the disaster management cannot be done.
Keep an eye on the watch as well.
Yes, next please. So others, I just skip all this. I'll give you the 5 step points that I have considered may be of use. Next please. Yeah, these are the suggestions of my sum up of the presentation. First is that for having a better effective disaster management system, we should have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. Nobody owns any roles or responsibilities. They say, no, it is not my duty, or it is his duty, or he will do, or who will do. So if it is well understood what is my role and how do I do my responsibilities and what are the provisions and mechanisms, I think I can contribute better than otherwise. Then second is develop and assess those capabilities. Now you have a capability. I presume till I have not acted that I can do faster, or I could have kept a control on my time when I started. But can I do actually? Now this time control will actually reveal how fast I am successful in that. So we should do capability needs assessment and also the exercises to know what shortcomings, define what needs to be done, what was talked about by BC and DMA and Chandi Prasad Bharti, where to be done, by whom to be done, how well coupled it is, and what are the measurable parameters and what are the needed capabilities required for readiness and response against disaster, and what kind of robust trainings and exercises should be inbuilt into our system. So the third point is effective coordination and collaboration among relevant stakeholders. Fourth is accountability. Most often the officials are very scared to take certain actions, considering that they can be called for explanations. So what is the provision and how it can be done. Then periodic evaluation and reporting of these coordinated efforts in a pre-disaster situation would naturally strengthen our system. So next please, first.
I'll ask Anil to make a few observations before we wind up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of points you say. I think we are woefully out of time management, which is almost turning into a disaster. I don't know if we really we seriously do deliberations on way ahead, what time do we really finish the today's workshop. But first of all, I think it's a very good initiative by NITM, this today's workshop. But then this should be the beginning. I mean, there are certain things which I'll just tell you. Because in a way I would agree with what Mr. T.N. Gupta said. Are we really learning lessons, or we by nature tend to forget, you see. We just do not learn lessons, you see. If I may just give 1 or 2 examples. 20 years back, Latur earthquake took place, 1993, which was followed by 7-year-long World Bank project, reconstruction, rehabilitation, huge investment, 20 years back, you see. But I would say maybe the government of India then, not so much the government of Maharashtra, and World Bank had put the blinkers. They were not seeing beyond Maharashtra. With the result that 2001, 8 years later, when the Bhuj earthquake took place, no lesson had passed, crossed the boundary between Maharashtra and Gujarat, you see. And remember that in between 1997, the Vulnerability Atlas of India had already come, which had given this, for 4 hazards and state-wise and district-wise the vulnerability positions, and the Bhuj was given as in zone 5. But let me also share with you that I happen to be the joint secretary. I was sent on the same day, and 26 January 8 o'clock I was in Bhuj sitting with collector, you see, Kamal Dayani and Srivastava SP. Next day, after some time, I think next morning, I asked him, I didn't want, as soon as I went, to be sort of offensive. I said, Kamal and Srivastava, was there any planning for this? You see? They said, no, sir. I said, why? He said, sir, frankly and honestly, we didn't even know that even is occupied. That was the state of, sharing and learning of lessons between Maharashtra and Gujarat, you see. And I think that is something very unfortunate. And that is where I said, Satinder, I hope Satinder is here or here, yeah. That, this has to be something which you have got to do, just persist with it, and do it and do it and push it, because this is just the beginning. During lunch we were discussing, that, okay, this has been very good deliberation, very good presentations, etc. But there needs to be some serious deliberations as to how to be followed. I know in a short session now which follows, you see, with 10 speakers and all that, something will say we fight with time management, etc. But we need to, which is fine, which is, I don't have too much of dispute. You do become over ambitious, these things happen, you see. But there is much to institutionalize, this learning lessons, which is what I'm saying. And institutionalized sharing of lessons learned, you see. You will do this, but let it not be like Vulnerability Atlas of India, you see, which doesn't even go to the collectors, you see. Or if it goes, then they don't have time. We have got to have whole mix of methodologies and mechanisms, etc., to really push this system, things down the line, see that it really happens, etc., etc. This is one big concern. The second concern I have, I'm sorry, I'm right now not on the coordination issue. A lot has been said, I would not like to say much on that, but just a brief observation. But before that, 2005 we had the Disaster Management Act. So if in 2001, if the DM and SP of one district told me, sir, we didn't have a plan, okay, fine. Not acceptable is still accepted. 8 years down the line from 2005 to 2013, and we have DM Act, and we have NDMA, we have SDMAs, we have DDMAs with stock of DDMPs, and yet if DDMAs have not become functional, and we are not bothering about the functioning of DDMAs, you see, let me tell you. I think nationally, I don't think we have yet bothered in 8 years, how are these poor DDMAs going to function? The DDMA Act, you see, if we look at the 20 sections, if not more, which deal with only functioning of DDMAs, and that is very right, you see. We will be strong as much as the DDMAs are strong and they are clear, and their DDMPs are really realistic and practiced and rehearsed and mock drilled and things like that. But DDMAs are all, very amorphous. We have not really got into that. That is very important. SDMAs, we all know what is happening, and I would urge NIDM, MHA, NDMA, whatever, you got to push the country, push the states, you see, there is just no way. Otherwise, in the time of RTI and writs and all that, we are all going to be hanged, you see. Which way, that's a different thing, How the manner of it will be different, but we are going to be hauled up, which is already happening, you see. There are writs, in high courts about SDMPs and things like that, you see. So let's really take this seriously. Coming to coordination, I'd just like to briefly, just in 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes, finish it. Some very good issues have come, apart from role clarity, etc. One is mutual appreciation, you see, of each other's work. I think in our society, in our country, we just tend to, only extol our own things. Others say, wo kuch nahi karte, wo begar hai sab. I think that kind of attitude doesn't really work. You see, you can't really deal with these kinds of things alone. It has to be a teamwork, it has to be multiple actors, players, stakeholders, and we need to really, like the very good presenter, I think Manish made these points very well, and everyone has limitations, you see. So, but appreciating and each other's role, etc. And therefore, You see, now coming to therefore, you see, I think the National Disaster Management Plan, NDMP, which was made by HPC, I'm not talking of HPC only because, well, I was associated. I'm sure that a lot of water has flown down NDMA with 30 odd documents, and guidelines, etc. But I think that defined very well two kinds of roles of every organization. Your own core responsibility. Everyone, whether it is army, you have your own core responsibility, and you have supporting responsibilities also with respect to other organizations, because you coordinate with a lot. But you got to keep your own, gun dry and ready. You see, so there are two kinds of functions which every organization is doing. You see, Shanti Kunj, its own internal system, and then the ability to coordinate, and same holds with everyone. So I think that kind of an understanding of roles you see in that. Then the idea of relief distribution, again 20 years, 30 years we are not learning, you see. These kinds of haphazard, ठीक है किसी ने ला दिया आप accept कर लीजिए वो बात दूसरी है. लेकिन as a nation, can we develop a protocol of family kits, you see, and really popularize it, make people aware about, make donors, states and everything. Do we really want, political parties, lining up 20 trucks, you see, of certain grain or whatever comes and then sending, you see, in a haphazard manner? I think it creates, subsequent secondary disasters in the places where it goes, isn't it? We have seen it in Odisha. I have seen it personally. We have seen it in Gujarat, where the then RC told me, Anil, can you ensure that these relief materials stop coming? I said, sir, why do you really not need it? Or he said, यार तुम जानते हो क्या हो रहा है इसका? ये आएंगे, डंप होंगे, मीडिया वाले आएंगे, फोटो लेंगे और unnecessary का एक इशू बनता जाएगा उसी. लेकिन हम लोग को we need to work on these, these family kits. I think concept has the Shanti Kunj itself was practically into the family kits. You see, we need to get into details of that. Come out with the documents on that, popularize it, on TVs, SDMAs, DDMAs, panchayats, जितना effort लगता है लगाइए साहब, तब भी ये चीजें थोड़ी लाइन पर आएंगे उसी. Lastly, I would say just coming back to again institutionalizing lessons learned and then dissemination, which is not happening. You see, and finally, I think public awareness and education has tremendous role in whatever we are doing. Especially mitigation and risk reduction. If I don't know about a risk here behind my back, what is the mitigation or risk reduction I am going to do? Nothing whatsoever. I need to know the risk which I have, you see. And therefore public awareness and education. But I think that is where maximum investment is required, but unfortunately least attention, least investment is there. I don't see that mahal of public awareness bombarding, you see. And one thing which I believe, and we are trying in our own humble way to try to practice, is reach out to each and every family. Unless until we have a strategy of reaching out to each and every family, I don't think we are going to succeed. In all essence, whatever we have said, I think each family, each person is the first responder. With all due apologies to whoever claims that we are the first responder, I think it is the family which has to deal with the situation and the individual who is the first responder. Unfortunately, he is also the last responder. Because in the first 2-3 months, you have hundreds of NGOs and government and all that. After some time, they all get back and to their, but family which has lost.